listening to. I say you are listening to. You are absolutely listening to the George Espinlov Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm. Now, with no further ado, here comes Georgie!
Thank you so very much. That is the Friday night cheer. I can always tell when it's Friday night. Even if I don't know what day it is, when I hear that cheer, there's something about a Friday night cheer that is different from all the other nights. And I welcome each and every one of you, whether you're down the street, around the corner, across this great nation, or around the world. I welcome each and every one of you to the George Espinlov Show. And do we have a doozy for you tonight? Listen, if you can do two things at once, sometimes I can't chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. But if you can multitask, like two or three things at once, while you're listening to the sound of my voice, call someone, email someone, message someone, whatever you do to contact family, friends, or anyone else, and tell them to tune in to the George Espinlov Show on Spreaker.com. Because tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not exaggerating one bit, tonight you are going to sit on the edge of your chairs as Mr. Chris Simmons comes and tells us about some intriguing things that he has done in his life. So you might as well, while you're calling somebody or emailing them or messaging them on Facebook or whatever you do to reach them, you might as well scrooch up on the edge of your chair, because that is exactly where you're going to be in just a short period of time. I guarantee it. Do what I do. Get up there in the beginning, and that way you won't have to scrooch around so much. You'll already be there, because that's where you're going to end up at. I want you to drop us an email, George CE. That's George CE at Comcast.net. George CE at Comcast.net. Thank you to all of you that have been sending us emails. If we haven't got back to you yet, we will be. We try to bang them right back at you, and then we try to answer some of the questions right here on the air. So tune in, listen, and watch your inbox, because we will respond to you. It's an exciting night. It's a Friday night here at the Funny Farm, and we never know what's going to happen. But I do know this much. Mr. Chris Simmons is coming on board right about now. Chris, welcome to the George Espinlov Show.
It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for inviting me.
Could you give us a little background of yourself?
The long story short, I am twice retired from the government, having spent 28 years with the Army, mostly as a counterintelligence special agent, and 25 years with the Defense Intelligence Agency as a supervisory counterintelligence agent. What that means in lay terms is I was blessed to be able to spend almost 3 decades hunting down spies and terrorists and other enemies of the United States.
And I want to say thank you, Chris, for your service.
In this case, the pleasure was all mine.
So you spent almost 3 decades doing what you really love to do. When did you know that you wanted to do this type of work?
I backed into it truly by accident. I originally went in the Army into combat arms as a paratrooper in the infantry. And then at a certain point, you get a secondary job to become well-rounded. And they made me the assistant intelligence officer. And I had some great bosses, decided to switch fields. Before I knew it, I was at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, at the intelligence school, and they essentially had a career day, if you will, where all the various technical specialists come in, and you decide what your discipline is going to transition into. And these guys got up there and introduced themselves as special agents and said, our job is to identify and neutralize or destroy other spy services. And that's all I had to hear. I signed up right there.
And as they say, the rest is history, right?
It was a heck of a run.
It sounds to me like you had a fire burning inside and the flame is still burning pretty high. Am I right?
You are. It was the point you made earlier. When you love what you're doing,
mm-hmm.
you're never going to work a day in your life. And I don't know. There's something deep inside me that hunting down spies and interrogating terrorists in Iraq and Afghanistan, I have some skill sets that made me very, very effective at that. And to do what you love and to know that at the end of the day our nation is safer because of it, it doesn't get much better.
Now, you spent 28 years in the Army, retired from the Army, and then you went into the Defense Intelligence Agency. Is that correct?
Well, it's kind of compressed. They have something called dual status,
mm-hmm.
where you can migrate from military service into civil service and back and forth. And you get credit for both, as long as you're paying for the pensions. So, I started off with 9.5 years in the Army, stayed in the reserve, and went defense intelligence. And then after 9/11, went back and did several more tours on active duty. So I had almost half my military service on active duty, and the rest of the time was with the agency.
Now, for our listeners, we've all watched spy movies. A lot of us have read books about spies and the intrigue and all the other things. It's nothing like that, is it?
It depends. If my daughters are listening, I would like to remind them and their boyfriends that the movie Taken and Taken 2 was based on me. Just remember that, boys.
Oh, is that right?
No, just kidding, but...
Oh, okay.
The skill sets are close. But, yes, the Jason Bourne and Mission Impossible, a little bit more exciting than it is in real life. The day-to-day, there's a lot of mundane investigative work, and on even the sexier side of things, like surveillance, it can be hours and days of boredom broken by minutes of sheer panic and terror. So what you see on television is a very compressed version of what actually happens.
Yeah, and if the good guy gets hurt on the television or on the big screen or in the book, he recuperates by next week and he's up and going to get some more bad guys. So, yeah, it's quite different. When 9/11 took place and you went back on active duty?
A couple of years after that, actually when 9/11 occurred,
mm-hmm.
We were deep into one of the biggest spy cases of the last 15 years, and that's the case of Ana Montes, who was a political military analyst within the Defense Intelligence Agency. And we had been working her for about a year at that point, and most people have never heard of her, and the rationale behind that is she was arrested immediately after 9/11 because she was pending transfer to work on the intelligence task force supporting Afghanistan, and there was no way she was ever going to put Americans at risk again. So she became background noise to the events of 9/11.
So was she involved in any way, shape, or form in 9/11?
No, the decision was made to arrest her before she could do anything. She had been involved, however, she had provided information to Cuba for 16 years. And for some people that don't look at Cuba as being a threat, the problem with the Cuban spy services is they see U.S. secrets as a commodity to be sold or traded to anyone who has something to offer. And so for those 16 years, the information that Ana Montes was providing was going to Beijing. We know it went to Beijing. We know other information went to Moscow. And everything else went to Havana. And from there, the trail went cold. As a quick aside, we do know during our as you may recall, in the 1980s, we were fighting a secret war in El Salvador. And for 3 years, she was our El Salvador desk officer. So every special operations team that went to El Salvador, she met with one of the team members, learned everything about the team, and then she gave up the team to the Cubans, who told the guerrillas.
That is some scary stuff. And I say this often. Most of us and our listeners, we go about our daily business and we do our thing. Very seldom is your mind on those type of things. People's busy taking care of life and children and going to work and all those other things. But there has been some startling things that has taken place within our own government of people not so much throwing us under the bus as selling us down the river, right?
It happens all the time. Your point is well made, and just to put things in context, when you look at not the agents, the traders working for other nations, but when you look at the sheer full-time intelligence officers working for the nations around the world, and most nations do in fact have intelligence services, no matter how small they are. There are about 3 million full-time intelligence officers.
Wow.
Working 24/7. So from there you just add in several million more for the agents they're running, and yes, it is very scary and very real. Let me give you a quick example. In one of my Army elements, we did surveillance training for a lot of other units, and we would train in Washington, D.C. I would always brief the participants to be careful, because on any given day, you could expect about 18 other intel services doing the same thing we were doing, but some of those surveillances were going to be live, real world, and you weren't sure which side they were playing for. So the next time your listeners are in D.C., just sightseeing, look around, because things are not what they seem to be.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen, remember that. That is, I was always taught to know what's going on around me. Sometimes I can be a real doofus, but nonetheless, I was always taught to pay attention. Who's around you, where you're at, which way out, which way in, all these other good things. But it's hard to tell what we as civilians in our everyday life, it's hard to tell what we walk past, isn't it?
It is, because on the day-to-day business, in the spy world, we would call it being in the white zone. And what this white zone is you're so caught up in your day-to-day, whether it's the drive to work, or the train ride to work, you've done it so many times, you stop paying attention. You see nothing, you hear nothing, and things play out right in front of your eyes, and you miss all of it.
Was after 9/11, up to 9/11, and then after 9/11, was the intelligent world different prior to 9/11 than it is now?
It was. Prior to 9/11, we had prioritized list of who should receive the most focus. For example, the biggest espionage threats, the most difficult espionage threats, were called hard targets. And so when we divided the world up, because the simple reality is there's not enough spy catchers to catch all the spies currently working in the United States.
Wow.
And so, sad but true, we had to do triage, and the hard targets got the highest level of effort. I don't want to say the rest of the world, but the secondary threats then got coverage, and the low to moderate threats got no coverage at all.
While I'm sitting here listening to you, Chris, I'm picturing this intelligent world. It seems to me that it can become quite confusing of who's who and what's what. Is that right?
It is, and it ties back to one of the truths of human nature. Actually, there's a couple aspects to factor in. There's an old saying that nations don't have friends; they have interest. And that's really the cornerstone of every nation's foreign relations. It doesn't matter how nice your ally is. Allies will spy against other allies for various reasons, and the ultimate reason, again, is their interests aren't the same as ours. There is no country that has exactly the same interest as any other country.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, when you expand that to people, the philosophy is self-interest trumps best interest all the time. And that idea tends to confuse people because we get so caught up in the predictability of best interest. And the reality is best interest is really irrelevant. Because if we did what was in our best interest, everyone would be at the gym every day. No one would drink to excess. No one would do drugs. We know what's in our best interest.
Mm-hmm.
And the best interests tend to be very factual, very rational, very logical, and free of any emotional connection. And it's that last component that makes them irrelevant. Because there's no emotional, you know what you should do, but you're not emotionally invested, so you're going to do what you want to do. And that's, you think of all the times in your life you've been blindsided when someone did something that totally caught you off guard.
Uh-huh.
Those are the situations where we should have been looking at their self-interest instead of their best interest. Because the self-interest is, it's values-based, it's self-image, it's pure emotion, and it will always trump best interest. And if anybody's able, with yourself or your listeners, in working with other people, it's not a matter of thinking, what would they do? It's look at their past behavior, because past behavior is the best predictor of the future. And then just ask yourself, how do they see themselves? What did they, it's the classic example is, and actually, let me back up briefly. When we're talking self-interest, because it's emotional, it can be irrational or appear to be irrational.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be self-destructive. The best example I can give you is the soldier who jumps on a grenade. Loses his life to save it, but he saves his friends. And in his mind's eye at that moment, he or she had no other choice. And it's that line of thinking, whether it's, I've had this discussion with several friends who were suffering from anorexia and bulimia. And that was their challenge of, in their mind's eye, they could never be thin enough. And that's what drove them. They knew what was best, but it was the emotional component that they could never free themselves of, and they engaged in self-destructive behavior.
As Artie Johnson used to say on Laughing, very interesting. I mean, that you created a thing called what is it? Human chess?
Yes.
Tell us what that is.
Well, what human chess does is it evolved during my spy catching, spy running years. And what it does is bring together body language with behavior analysis and statement deconstruction. And when you put, a lot of people are familiar with body language. And it's a great tool, but it has some severe limitations, and it is simply one tool. My belief has always been there are three perfect tools when they're used together. And so why use one when you can use all three? And by combining the behavior analysis, the statement deconstruction, body language, you really create the perfect paradigm to increase your influence with others and accomplish almost anything you'd need to. And that's hence the term human chess. When we were working the Ana Montes case, working behind the scenes we were able to shape the environment that she worked in to make her do what we wanted. And it actually earned me the nickname, the Puppet Master.
The Puppet Master. That's cool.
I have since repurposed those skills, to fit a kinder, gentler version of myself. But it all still works. I'm reminded of there was a news program earlier today showing a mother who had allegedly killed her stepdaughter. And when they asked her, did she do it? Her answer was that she had confessed to it, but it really wasn't a murder, but she did say she did it. And just to watch the video, which I actually posted on the website, it's the perfect example of how a guilty person answers. Because any innocent person, your first answer is going to be, no, I didn't kill my child. I would never kill my child. It's an emphatic refusal. But for this woman to start off with, yes, I confess to it, and then when she, that's unusual enough, but then when she rationalized and said, it really wasn't a murder, what that shows, that's her way of telling the police and everyone else that she's rationalized this. In her mind, she sees it as something other than what it was. And so as long as she can, it's almost the pathological, if she believes it wasn't murder, she can, look a jury in the eye and say, I didn't do that.
Wow.
Reshaping reality.
When you said that you could create an environment that could cause this individual to do what you guys wanted her to do, that is, what's the word?
Frightening.
Well, I think, for lack of a better term, that's neat. I mean, that you're able to do that and bring something to pass that'll rid the world or our country of one less spy. I mean, that I can't get my head around that, but it's cool, and that's part of your human chest, right?
It is, and that's a perfect example of bringing together different parts. Because, for example, let's take the behavior analysis. Most people are creatures of habit.
Uh-huh.
They have very established routines for every day of the week. And so for someone like myself who would be watching, it takes no time to create a baseline of how predictable are you on a daily basis.
Uh-huh.
And some people, especially from Monday through Friday, they are 90%, over 90% predictable. They have a set pattern, hours, where they go, how they get there. There's never any difference. And so it makes it very easy if you needed to change something. You already know where they're going to be and what they're going to be doing at any given time. And so it's just a matter of tweaking events to drive them to do what you want them to do.
We have a fella in our chat room, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but Sam asked me, didn't the band Metallica have an LP called Master of Puppets?
That I do not know.
You don't know. I told him I'm not sure, but if I had to guess, I'd say yes. But that, do they still give you that name? I mean, is it still hanging above you?
The Puppet Master?
Yeah, the Puppet Master.
That's going to stay with me for a while.
I would imagine. When you're talking about habits and things, I've always been ask my wife for 45 years, she'll tell you in pretty plain English about me, but nonetheless, I can't stay serious too long because that gets too scary. And sometimes we'll go somewhere and she'll say, "Why are you going this way?" I said, "Well, because if the Indians are waiting for me where I usually go, they won't get me." And, she'll just roll her eyes and look at me like I have two heads, which I probably do. But, when you were saying about we're creatures of habit, oh, my goodness. Now, I when I go get coffee every morning, I go about the same time, the same place, get the same thing. And there's a whole bunch of other people that does the same thing that I do at the same place when I do it. And then we we'll go down the road a certain way all the time, every day, every time. So we do that, and most of us don't even realize that we're doing such a thing. Is that so?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was referring to earlier when I talked about being in the white zone.
Uh-huh.
Your situational awareness of what's going on around you drops to, in some cases, almost zero. You're engaged only enough to make sure the car goes where you want it to go. And there could be any number of things happening on the sidelines that you would drive right past it, never having seen
it. Can I give you another example? And we'll use Espinlov as an example because he's a classic. I've lived here for 30 years. Now, I would like to think that I know where just about every house is, every street, so on and so forth. It's not a real big community. But Chris, just recently, I was coming down a street that's not far from where we're at now, and I looked to the right, and sitting back further than the other houses was a house. And I hate to admit it, but as many times as I've been down that road, in all these years I've lived here, I never realized that there was a house sitting there. I'm one of them people, huh?
Everyone is one of those people at some point. It's just a matter of how much of the day do you spend in the white zone? And I say it lightheartedly. I'm not actually trying to mock people. It's just keeping a heightened state of situational awareness. It is draining. And that's part of why, as people, we tend not to do it. If, for example, we're going to work, there's never been a problem before.
Uh-huh.
And so we tell ourselves there's no reason to pay attention today. And we shut down. And those are the times, especially when we're pretty good at, let's say you're coming out of a theater at dark and there's minimal light, and then your situational awareness increases because you perceive the risk of danger.
Uh-huh.
But it's those times when you see little or no risk that we enter that white zone and we miss things. And the problem is, as people, we are inherently bad at estimating what the real risks are at any point.
That the bombing that recently took place in Boston, I guess that's one example. If I'm wrong, correct me, of what you're talking about. Although the ordinary person wasn't thinking about it, wasn't looking for it, so on and so forth. And that's what the bad people, that's what they rely on, isn't it?
It is, whether it's terrorists or criminals. They've been doing, especially in the criminal aspect, or the career terrorists. They've been doing this long enough that they understand how unaware the average person is.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember many a day doing surveillance in D.C., throughout the Mid-Atlantic, and the things we would do that you're standing there thinking, we're looking at each other going, they had to have seen that. And no one saw anything. In years of doing surveillance work all over the Mid-Atlantic, there were only a handful of times people notified local law enforcement of something suspicious. And it always, I remember there was always a part of me that wondered, if we can do this, no one's asking us who we are. No one's reporting it. How many times does this go on in any given neighborhood with people who aren't working for the government?
If we, and I'll throw this question in, Sam just informed me that he checked, and Metallica does have an LP called Master of Puppets. So
I will buy it tonight.
thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. What should we let's say that someone is outside our studios and we've never seen them before, and they're doing something, repairing something, they're broke down, whatever it might be. What should we do? I mean, should we just keep an eye on it, or should we call authorities, or should we approach those people? What is the proper thing to do? Is it better to be safe than sorry?
It is, and the best approach is to simply look at it and say, what would appear normal? And I can, for example, a couple years back, there was a knock on my door at 3 a.m. And, there's, under no situation should you ever answer the door at 3 a.m.
Right.
And so I went to one of my children's bedrooms that overlooked the front door, opened the window, looked down to see who was there. As a young man, 20-something, asked him what he wanted. And he said, he had been visiting with a friend right around the corner, and his car broke down. And, could I let him in and, so we could call and, get help and everything. And I told him, I'm looking around the corner. I see nothing. And I'm thinking, why didn't you just stay with your friend? None of it made sense.
Right.
You were over at a friend's, and yet you didn't use their phone. You don't have your own cell phone. You're knocking on random houses. And so, I volunteered to call the sheriff, and they'd come and help get him a jump start for his car, or get him wherever he needed. And suddenly he didn't need help anymore. And so, I immediately did call the sheriff, and and within 20 seconds, he was taking off. So it's just, we've all had those times where the hair stood up on the back of our neck when something didn't seem right.
Yes.
That's actually, your instincts are amazingly accurate. And what science has found is when you have those situations, it's your subconscious has already become aware of something. There are anomalies around you that your mind has already picked up on. It just hasn't processed it enough to get it to the front where you can identify a certain thing. So anytime your instincts tell you something's not right, go with your instinct, because the accuracy rate is well over 80%.
What did you all? Well, outside of being when you was in the service in the Army, were you mostly here in the States when you wasn't on active duty?
Yes, it was mostly in the States. But one of the beauties of being counterintelligence is not only is it a very exciting field, as you might imagine, spending your life hunting down spies, because of the focus of the work, I would always teach my guys, young ladies and men working with me, that we actually had to be better than regular spies because we were looking for their mistakes. Mm-hmm. If they were good enough, we wouldn't catch them, so we had to be better. And one of the beauties of counterintelligence, to allow you to get that level of training, the government allows counterintelligence agents in this country to hunt down spies. But overseas, you're allowed to run spies. So it becomes very useful, for the agents to, counterintelligence agents, cut your teeth here and then go overseas and do the other side of the coin. And that makes you so much better when you're back here.
So what is, here you chase spies, overseas you run spies?
Correct.
What is running spies?
The running spies is, I guess you would call it handling spies. We would have a network of spy handlers in the field, and I was always senior enough that I would be the one giving them their priorities. Here are the targets we need. Here's the resources to do it. And then espionage is actually it's resource driven in terms of if you've got an officer in the field trying to find the right agents, you're limited by your resources everywhere you go because you're going to have a set number of these spy handlers. We call them case officers.
Mm-hmm.
Think of burn notice. You're going to have a case officer out there, and because of the difficulty in finding spies, teaching them, grooming them, making them effective, keeping them hidden, the average case officer can only run 3 spies. And so, if I am, let's say, back in Iraq, and I'm running 30 case officers, theoretically I can run no more than 90 agents. Mm. And so, you're always doing resource management of, is this the best 90 I could ever have? Who is not producing that I can get rid of and replace with someone better? And it's a never-ending process.
Wow. That when I was reading where you put 80 espionage spies out of business. Were they arrested? Were they killed? Or is it a variety of things that took place that they are no longer in business?
There's a little bit of everything. Some were arrested. Others that were serving as diplomats in this country were thrown out, declared persona non grata. And the beauty of being declared persona non grata, because it always makes the paper, and depending on what nation it is, well, when you're thrown out, when a spy is declared persona non grata, everybody around the world suddenly knows this person's an intelligence officer. And so, all that work that, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years that may have gone into training that person suddenly goes out the window because now everybody knows who they are. And it can also be further crippling, and I can use Cuba as an example. The U.S., Canada, and England traditionally have reciprocity. And what I mean by that is if the U.S. throws out an agent or a diplomat, an intelligence officer serving under diplomatic cover, if we throw him out, not only will he never be allowed back in the United States, he'll never be allowed in Canada or England. And so in this scenario, if you're a Cuban, an English-speaking Cuban spy, you've just been removed from the three most lucrative targets you could ever serve in. And so your career is destroyed. No matter what they do with you, you will never be effective in the field again.
And with certain countries, using Cuba as an example, it could be quite detrimental to your health record.
Yes, they have. They've had officers in the past have mysterious car crashes, and some have actually been imprisoned for their failures. But again, with that situation, we always watch, because there is one, for example, after we arrested Ana Montes, he was thrown out of this country specifically in retaliation for the Ana Montes case, and Cuba made him ambassador to Pakistan.
Wow.
And that was our response. That could not have been more in your face.
I was going to say, that's in your face kind of stuff. Yeah.
And even more aggressive, Cuba did not have an embassy in Pakistan until he arrived. So they created an embassy out of nothing and put a man who specialized in American targets. And so it didn't take a lot for us to pull out the maps and look at the proximity of the Cuban embassy to the U.S. embassy, and just, that's the perfect example of the political dynamics. A Cuban in Pakistan, do the Pakistanis care? No.
Right.
Do I believe that the Cubans could effectively run Pakistani officers? Absolutely. Do I think he was collecting against U.S. counterterrorism operations? Absolutely. And I believe he and his staff did it quite well for several years. And there's nothing we could do to stop him.
Have you been involved in any cases that you finally got this individual, and when you finally get to the end of it, and you have the individual, are they always expelled, or can they cut a deal and say, look, is it over for that individual?
If they're a diplomat, they will always be expelled. Mm-hmm. If they're an American traitor, if they're smart, they take a deal. And in actuality, both sides almost always want a deal, because, and we can use Ana Montes or Kendall Myers from State Department. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be gaps in our knowledge of what did you give to the other side. And so from the government perspective, we would like to know how badly we were hurt. And of course, for the individual that was arrested, they want to avoid a long jail sentence or possibly death. So almost always a deal is cut.
We have, and I'm sitting here thinking of the Walker people, the Walker family. They really put a hurting on our country as far as giving up some vital information, didn't they?
They did, and the Walker spy ring from the 80s, that whole family did long-lasting damage. Because to bring your listeners up to speed, the Walkers were a Navy family, and the father and sons were involved in communications. And so they were using their jobs in the communication realm to work for the Russians. Well, part of what they did was not just provide communications, they provided our encryption equipment. And that was actually, in my opinion, probably more dangerous than the secrets they were providing. because the equipment nations use to encrypt, that type of technology undergoes slow generational changes. Yeah, and the changes tend to be linear. So if whatever the programs we were using in the 80s haven't changed that much present day. I mean, of course, with computers, they've made a lot of advances, but in many ways, you could compare it to, a TV set from the 1980s to a TV set today. Fundamentally, it does the same thing. Today's version just does it better, faster, larger. So for things like that, where they take our technology, especially with communications, the damage can go on for decades.
That's scary. That is really scary. I remember when that was going on. I was so bent out of shape, so angry, along with many other folks, so angry to think that such a thing. I mean, that a person could just sell us down the river. But when you look at it, it's menial. I don't care how much money it is. I mean, when it's all said and done, it means nothing. And to sell your country down the river, my remedy was different than how it turned out for those fellows, but nonetheless, and with all the other cases that went on over the years that we're aware of, the public's aware of, there's just an anger that wells up inside of me, and I wonder, how can somebody do something like that to our country? Have you ever been able to, or maybe it wasn't in your field, but have you ever been able to think why people do these things? Is there an answer, or is there a variety of answers?
There's a variety of answers. The saddest aspect of it is, for the last several decades, most of them have not been recruited in the old sense of, another spy service finds them and they volunteer and they go find the other spy service. And they do it for ego, they do it for revenge. Some do it for money, but money is not the motivating factor most people would think it is. It's again, when we talk about self-interest, it's that emotional component. Someone has wronged them somewhere, or so they believe. They haven't been promoted fast enough. They find any number of ways to rationalize it so that they don't have to tell themselves they're selling their country out. And then they do it with little or no remorse.
That took us full circle right back to that self-interest thing that you had just mentioned again. It's incredible. What is when you start an investigation, and you got an inkling, or somebody's got some information. I mean, you got to start this puppy from scratch, right? I mean, just like you're going to bake a cake from scratch. You've got to start way down on the bottom and build these things up until you get to that place where you can almost get them to do what you want, right? And it could be a long process.
It can be, and it's not like every tip you get pans out. There's a lot of good people reporting suspicious activity every day. And so the first part of it is sorting the wheat from the chaff. Because no matter what happens, the fallback is always, if someone's, and when in doubt, report it. Better that it gets reported and the government investigates and turns out that it was explainable. It wasn't quite what it seemed, than just to ignore it and that be the one time we needed that report. So the first thing, you sort through the chaff, get down to these are the real cases. And even then it can be not just long and detailed, but there are parts that are going to be frustrating. And the best part, or most frustrating part that comes to mind for me is once you know someone, this is your suspect, they're committing espionage, you're going to put them in prison, and you start circling around, doing your interviews ever closer to your suspect, which, as you might imagine, always high risk, because you're always concerned that someone's going to go back and tell them. And so there's a whole protocol to interviewing friends so that they aren't going to tell. But it always seemed that the first time you'd interview the close friends, the answers were always the same. There was, oh no, couldn't be her. She's, the greatest person I've ever met. And you walk away knowing that they are in complete denial. And so, from a practical standpoint, the interviews are, certain interviews become almost worthless because there was nothing true about it. But invariably, when you go back the second time and you sit down with the individual and say, look, your friend is going to prison. We've got the evidence. They're going to go to prison. You've had some time to think about it. Is there anything, would you like to change your statement? In almost 100% of cases, that's when they go, I was just about to call you. I've been thinking about it, and about a dozen instances come to mind that I'd like to share with you. And those are the interviews that actually help put people in prison.
Wow. Chris?
And it happens all the time.
Have you written a book?
I have. The first one is in draft. It's called In Plain Sight. It should be coming out next year. And it ties together the Anna Boleyn case with a couple other interesting spy cases. It's all true life.
Wow. It's in what? In plain sight?
In plain sight.
Wow. Man, if you had if you had that out right now, I'd have my nose stuck in it. This is just so interesting, and I know you're a busy man, and I mean we haven't even scratched the surface, but my goodness gracious, will you please stay in touch with me and keep me up on what's going on, because I sure would love to have you come back and tell us some more.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Great. Wow. Do you have a website?
I actually have two websites. They're both on WordPress.
Okay.
The first website is called Cuba Confidential, and that's where I track Cuban spy operations around the world. And the other site, also on WordPress, is Human Chess.
Human Chess. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen. Is it Cuban Confidential, or is it Cuba?
It is Cuba Confidential.
Cuba Confidential. Okay, I got you. And Human Chess.
Human Chess.
Human Chess. Wow. And I'll keep telling folks about this, and we'll put some more up on the show page. And Chris, it took us a while to finally hook up, but we made it, buddy. We
did, and I'll get you a copy of the In Plain Sight manuscript in the mail.
Oh, all right. I'm like a little kid jumping up and down in the candy store. All right. Yeah. One thing before you leave, Chris, I'm a kid that has never grown up because I've seen some of them grown-ups, and they're just downright scary. So I just figured I'd stay like this forever.
Nothing wrong with that.
I've done it for 64 and a half years now. It's too late for me to change. You have been a gentleman. You have given us so much information, and I wish you only the best. And whatever you put your hand to, I just hope that it blossoms and blooms, and God just richly blesses you. And please stay in touch and come back again.
That I will. Maybe next time we'll talk terrorism.
All righty. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Oh, what can you say after that? Man. On WordPress, Cuba Confidential and Human Chess, C-H-E-S-S. Let me make sure I got it spelt right here. You know me. Yes. Okay. Human Chess. And these are both on WordPress. If you have to do any searching, just type in there Chris Simmons, S-I-M-M-O-N-S. What a delight. Now there, ladies and gentlemen, you are talking about an individual that served his country for decades. And who knows? Who knows how many bad things that him and men and women just like him kept us from. And I tip my hat to this man and to all of those people that are protecting. Remember, when you're out somewhere, pay attention. Have the presence of mind. Know who's around you, where you're at, which way in, which way out. You see this, you see that. Always try to pay attention. Thank you so very, very much, Chris. And I will be back in just a minute. And Sam, thank you, buddy. Man, Metallica does have an LP called Master of Puppets. Isn't that amazing? You've learned something new every day. I'll be back in just a little bit.
When you called me an angel, said I was heaven sent to save your heart. Well, I may be tempted, I may like what I hear. You woke up the devil, now she's whispering in my ear. Or do you think you're
You're listening to the George Espinlaub Show, coming to you. Stop it. Yes. Coming to you live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. And we have no idea where that's at. I see my good friend Harry B. from Ireland is up. He must still be up, or he didn't sign off of off his Skype page or something. But I see him. I see him on there, which means that over there in Ireland it's like 12:37 a.m. So Harry, if you're awake, if you're up, and if you by chance are listening to the show, give me a call. You got me on your list there. Just ring me up, and we'll chat a while. 302-497-3414 is the number, or George.Espinlaub. That's a Skype number. That is a Skype name, so you can reach us either way. 302-497-3414. My, that was intriguing tonight. Have you ever wondered how many people you meet in your lifetime that you know nothing about? I mean, just stop and think about it now. Here tonight on the show, we had a real live counterintelligent officer that has served our country for almost 3 decades and has been involved in some of the biggest spy-catching episodes that we have ever seen in our nation's history. How about the guy down the street around the corner, somewhere over there? Who is he? Who is she? What do they do? Have you ever stopped and wondered about it? But nonetheless, people are interesting. And remember, as one of our guests said just a week or so ago, everyone, every single one of us has a story. Each and every one of us has a history. 302-497-3414. Harry, if you're awake, if you're awake and if you're listening to the show, call me. Sam, if you're still around and you're listening by any chance, give us a call. 302-497-3414 or George.Espinlaub or anyone else that is out there. It's Friday night. You don't have to go to bed. Most of us don't have to get up early in the morning, although most of us still will. So just come on in and we'll chat and we'll see what happens.
Come a little closer, honey, don't be shy. You make me wild, you make me high on life. Don't wanna whisper sweet nothings in your ear. Just wanna tell you about our love, oh so dear. Let's talk about love,
take you from where you are to where you wanna be. 'Cause radio works. Radio works. We'll take you from where you are to where you wanna be. 'Cause radio works. Radio works.
Yeah, it do. Radio works. Let me give you a little clue of what's going on around here. And stop it, you guys. No, stop it. Hey, if anybody wants a few people, I mean, I don't know what you'll do with them, but if anybody wants, just call us at 302-497-3414. I'll even bag them up and send them to you. I promise. It don't much matter to me what the freight costs. I'll just send them to you. You want 3 or 4 of them because they're here right now. They're a rowdy bunch in here. But anyways, tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, join me because Saturday nights we bring to you the show that is produced by Pacific Garden Mission out of Chicago, Illinois, entitled Unshackled. And tomorrow night we will bring you a true story of an individual that found himself in some deep miry clay. But in the end, they come out unshackled. And then again on Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, we come right back at you with another episode of Unshackled. These programs, entitled Unshackled, produced by Pacific Garden Mission out of Chicago, Illinois, is the oldest running, remember this, it's the oldest running dramatized radio program in history. Unshackled has been running since 1950 and still running strong today. Over 2,700 radio outlets boom it out around the world each and every single day. It's heard over 12,000 times per week around the world. And we're just glad, we're excited, we're happy that we are just one out of 2,700 radio outlets that carries the program entitled Unshackled. So join me tomorrow night at 6:30 and then again Sunday morning at 7 a.m. and that's Eastern Time. Monday night. Oh, do I have a treat for you on Monday night. Let me get my book here. Oh. I'm telling you what. When I said everyone has a history, everyone has a story, well, I have in my hand, and I have had it in my hand for the last several days, in my hand and my nose inside. It is the life story of Dr. Titus, and I know I'm not saying this right, but I'm going to do my best. The life story of Dr. Titus Plomoritis. Now, I might be saying, in fact, I probably am saying that last name. So, Dr. Titus, if you're listening tonight, please forgive me if I'm really tearing up your last name. But the life story of Dr. Titus Plomoritis. He is one fantastic individual. He is 83, 84 years old now, and he sat down and put it in writing, his story. I mean, it is intriguing. And let me tell you something. You talk about rugged individualism in America. This is the classic example of it. That you can do anything that you set your mind to, regardless of the obstacles or the situation you find yourself in. The name of his book is simply Titus. It is, 600 pages, 300 pages, 400 pages? Where am I at here? How many pages? 500 and some, almost 600 pages. Yeah, 537. But I'm telling you what, as you read it, I mean, it's just intriguing. It is incredible. So he will be with us. Dr. Titus Plomeritis will be with us on Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The life story of Dr. Titus Plomeritis. Wow. It will thrill you beyond words, and I'm looking forward to it. Wow. It's Friday night. I know that most of you, many of you, have put in a hard week's work. And perhaps you're fortunate enough that you're going to have tomorrow off. And whatever neck of woods that you're in, I hope that you have a great, great day. I really do. For some of you that's listening, it's already tomorrow. So I want you to have a great, great day. The weather here was beautiful today. It was absolutely beautiful. Who do we got calling here? Let's see what happens. Hello and welcome to the George Espinlove Show.
I just wanted to tell you that you pronounced the name perfectly.
I did?
You did.
Oh, my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the author of the book, Titus, on the phone right now. You know, I took a stab at it, and I remember reading where your last name rhymes with the last part of your last name rhymes with your first name.
Well, you know, George, how I tell people, I said, if you have trouble with it, just think of inflammation of your plumber, and you'll get it perfect.
That's a good way to put it. I'm so glad you called. You know, usually I could tear up a last name, including my own. So I feel kind of right proud of myself that I finally got one right.
Oh, you got an A on that. If I was giving you a grade, you got an A+.
All right. Wait till I tell my wife that. And we'll have it. We'll have it in the archives, and she can actually hear you telling me that I got an A+. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm a former teacher too, so I can do that. I can give you a grade.
You know, I'm looking forward to you coming on the show on Monday night, and
we'll have a good time, George. I'm a good storyteller, and I think you'll have a lot of information that your listeners will be very happy to hear.
And I am
starting way back as a child and going right up until my current. I closed the door on the book just prior to Thanksgiving. That's when I launched the book. Was Thanksgiving on the football field at that.
Yeah, I am about just a little bit better than halfway done, and I'm going to finish it this weekend, tomorrow or Sunday. And I just want you to know that I am enjoying it beyond words.
Great. I'm so happy, George. I really are. I know we've been planning on this show for over 5 or 6 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I hope everything is all right. When I heard that your grandson wasn't doing well, I said my prayers, and I asked my friends to say prayers for him. I hope everything is okay.
Yes, sir. I'll tell you what. We thank the medical staff, both here at the local hospital and AI DuPont in Wilmington, and the chopper pilots and the paramedics that flew them there and so on and so forth. But, you know, we are firm believers that prayer does things. And
it sure does.
We have a good report that came back. They put him on the tilt table and did it. And they said it's nothing to be concerned about, and they explained why it happened and all those other things. He's been released back to his normal activities. He plays baseball, he plays football, and all those things. And in fact, tonight he is out at the ball field, and he has been up, gone, doing all those things that a 14-year-old kid does. And really, I thank you all for your prayers and we know that everyone's prayers touched heaven, and that made the difference.
Wonderful. You sound like a grandfather that really enjoys them, too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, Titus, I'm so happy that you called. I really am. I got an A. First of all, I got a surprise when you called me. And then I got an A because I pronounced your last name right. This has been a pretty good night, I must say so myself. And
You're right on target, George.
And I'm looking forward to you calling me on Monday evening, and I know the audience is going to enjoy you.
Okay, George. And with that, I'll say good night and have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was very pleasant. That was very pleasant indeed. My. Only in radio. That's just how it is. Charlie, now when you move that over there, please be careful because we just got that in, all right? Be careful. Charlie. Are you hurt? Anyhow, I've got to go help Charlie. So let's put some music on up here because I've got to go help him. I mean, if you could see him, don't worry about that, Charlie. We'll just have to get another one, but. I got to go over here and help them. So you guys get out on the dance floor, kick the sofa back, kick the chair back, kick the kitchen table back, the lawn chairs, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, just kick it all back, tap your feet, snap your fingers, bob your head, and shake your booty while I go over here and help Charlie.
blow my mind. You build me up just to knock me down. You build me up just to knock me down. Build me up and knock me down. Drag my name all over town. Pick me up, spit me out. Tell me what it's all about. Build me up and knock me down. I can't find no hiding place. Leave me at the lost and found. Build me up and knock me down. A better way, nothing can be done. You mean everything to me. You're the only one. Friday on my mind, weekend on its way. Can't help what I'm feeling now. Nothing more to say. You build me up just to knock me down. You build me up just to knock me down. Build me up and knock me down, giving me the mess around. Speak to me, to my face, saying I'm a hopeless case. Build me up and knock me down, making me feel worthless now, kicking me down to the ground. Build me up and knock me down. Build me up and knock me down, giving me the mess around. Speak to me, to my face, saying I'm a hopeless case. Build me up and knock me down, making me feel worthless now, kicking me down to the ground. Build me up and knock me down. Build me up, knock me down, knock me down. Build me up, build me up, knock me down, knock me down. Build me up, me up, me up. Build me up and knock me down. I can't find no hiding place. Leave me at the lost and found. Build me up and knock me down. Build me up and knock me down. Drag my name all over town. Pick me up, spit me out. Tell me what it's all about. Knock me down, making me what it's all about. Kicking me down to the ground. Build me up and knock me down. Build me up and knock me down, giving me the mess around. Speak to me, to my face, saying I'm a hopeless case. Build me up and knock me down. I can find no hiding place. Leave me at the lost and found. Build me up and knock me down. Build me up and knock me down. Drag my name all over town. Pick me up, spit me out.
I think that's the kind of night Charlie's having around here. I don't mean to laugh at you, Charlie. I'm sorry, buddy. You're having such a bad night. Yeah, we'll just have to order another one. I know it took 2 weeks to get it, and you broke it in 2 seconds. Right. That's all right. We'll get another one, Charlie. And then Charlie cut the music off. Oh, you cracked me up, Charlie. I'll tell you, you're worth your weight in gold, my friend. You really are. I am so glad that you're here, and you are my sidekick. Thank you, Charlie. No, I'm not mad at you, buddy. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans and countrymen. Charlie just did something to me. That's all. Where was I at? Charlie, I tell you what. You call my mom and ask her if she wants to go down to the beach. It's only like, 8:03 here? Call my mom. Ask her if she wants to go down to the beach, and we'll take a ride down to the beach. No, you're not driving. I'll drive. No, you need to sit there and just relax, okay? We'll go down and get some of that salt air, maybe some French fries or something, some pizza, whatever. We'll go down on the boardwalk a little bit. That'll make you feel better. You call my mom. Tell her as soon as we shut it down, we'll come and pick her up and we'll take a ride down to the beach. All right? All right, buddy. Oh, my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you for hanging with me tonight. I can't get myself together. Charlie just cracked me up. I don't want to say that word. Crack me out. It hurts too bad. But anyhow, we got to get another one of them dooflickies. Come on, Espinal, get yourself together. I want to say thank you to Chris Simmons, who spy catcher, chased terrorists, chased enemies of this great country of ours, served our country for almost 3 decades, had so much information, and he's going to come back again at a later date, and we'll start all over. I want to thank Dr. Titus for calling in. You made my night. You really, really did. And you know what? Dr. Titus has been married 60-some years. Can you believe that? 60-some years. I think that's just fantastic. And I think we should just give him a great, great, big hand. That's right. Him and the missus deserve it. Yes, indeed. You tell him, Isaac. Charlie, he's over there jumping up and down, clapping. And don't fall off your box. He's got a box that he stands on over there. And if he's not careful, he'll be upside down. Call my mom. Yeah, call my mom. And tell her we'll come by, pick her up, tell her to be ready. I know we don't have much of a chance of that happening, but tell her we're going down to the beach for a while. All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much for hanging with me tonight and putting up with me. Sometimes I can't put up with myself. So I just wonder how anybody else can. But thank you anyhow. You know, our audience is growing. Good things are happening. A lot of different ideas are being kicked around here on the Espinal Show, and we're working on some, and we're planning some more, and we're making contact with some other folks to do some things with us. It's an exciting time. And it's all because of our audience, because if we had no audience, there'd be no need to sit behind this microphone. I remember years and years and years ago. You know, it's strange how fast time goes by. But we were on the radio back in the 70s, then back in the 80s. It almost seems like yesterday, but yet it seems almost 100 years ago. My, how far we have come and how much we've been blessed. And I thank you, the audience. It's always the audience. Without you, there would be no need to even produce a show. We're growing. And to all of our friends down the street, around the corner, across this great nation, and around the world, I challenge you. Tune in. Tomorrow night, we'll be airing Unshackled, produced by Pacific Garden Mission out of Chicago, Illinois, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So, until then, this is George Espinal challenging you. Be safe. Don't take no wooden nickels. And to all of our guys and gals in uniform in the States and around the world, bless you, my brothers and sisters. You're my heroes. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Stay safe.